today's episode, we will talk about insects with wings, specifically long-legged flies which have wings located in the thorax area. There are many species of flies that amount to 100,000 species, 10 of which are domestic flies. Flies are also insects that transmit numerous diseases like malaria. Parasitic fungus-infected domestic flies are most often found around houses. Flies were mentioned twice in the Holy Quran, in one verse of Surat 1 Hajj. The holy verse means that those who do not believe in God will not succeed in anything, even if it were the creation of flies. And if the flies should rob the so-called gods of anything of their goodness, then they shall not succeed with the presence of God. The Almighty said,
يا أيها الناس ضرب مثل فاستمعوا له إن الذين تدعون من دون الله لن يخلقوا ذبابا ولو اجتمعوا له وإن يسلبهم الذباب شيئا لا يستنقذوه منه ضعف الطالب والمطلوب ما قدر الله حق قدره إن الله لقوي عزيز.
Human beings consider flies as vile and disgusting insects, and they do everything in their power to get rid of them. Nevertheless, human beings don't need to get in the way of flies. Nothing is abstained from a person's body, neither from his clothes, from his food, nor from his drink. That is why it is said, 3 things that cannot be escaped from are death, taxes, and flies. A fly's body, like other insects, is made out of 3 main parts: the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. Flies have eyes that are close to one another, comprising around 4,000 lenses, each working individually. For this reason, flies don't have sharp eyesight, but despite this, they are able to notice the slightest of movements. Flies also have 2 sensory antennae to help them locate food and allow them to smell. A fly's mouth is shaped like a downwards funnel. It is called a proboscis, which sucks the liquid out of the food that the fly feeds on. That's how the digestion process begins before the food enters the fly's body. Flies don't have a stomach. They contain a digestive enzyme which absorbs the food nutrients through the antennae, which later goes directly to the fly's blood. Flies' muscles are attached to the internal walls of the thorax to enable the flies to move their legs and their wings. Flies have 6 legs that they use to walk, but they only use 4 of those legs to stand up. Flies usually have claws at the end of their legs that help them to hold on to walls and to ceilings. The wings of a fly are considered very thin, to the point where one can see the vessels through them. Those vessels help transport blood into the wings to strengthen and support them. There are also a couple of thick circular bumps on the back wings of the flies to help them stay balanced. Flies can breathe through openings on the sides of their body called spiracles, of which there are 8 pairs. If we mean to say 16 spiracles, we would have said 16 pairs. The air goes from those spiracles into the tubes and then to the rest of the body. Flies can live and adapt with all the surrounding environmental conditions, even if they are harsh. They are known for their extreme flying speed. In fact, they are able to flap their wings hundreds of times per second. They keep flying until they find something to land on. The danger of flies lies in their ability to carry microbes and spread diseases and epidemics, because they constantly fly between dumps and houses, and between garbage and the food that humans consume. This is also due to their biological nature, given that they taste with their legs. They are covered with hair, and they pour secretions over solid materials to moisten them before eating them, especially sugar tablets. If flies are given the chance to mate without having any of their eggs or larvae die, they would produce so many flies that they would be enough to cover the earth and would be able to live anywhere, except in the North and South Poles. Female flies lay more than 100 eggs that they throw into animal droppings or rotten food waste. One day later, the eggs hatch into larvae that feed and grow in their surroundings. Less than 2 weeks later, their growth is complete and they become 800 times heavier. 1 week after that, the flies move on with their short lives that do not exceed 60 days, and during which all they do is eat. A single fly can breed around 1.5 million flies over only 4 generations. But fortunately, most larvae perish from the cold or drought. They can also be eaten by birds or other animals such as spiders and frogs. This way, the number of flies remains stable thanks to the natural balance of life. There are multiple types of flies, most notably domestic flies. This type of fly does not exceed 7.5 centimeters in length. The female fly can lay 100 eggs at once, and their larvae constitute the diet of multiple animals such as birds, frogs, and lizards. These larvae also die as a result of environmental factors such as cold or heat. For this reason, their numbers decrease significantly. White flies. This type of fly causes a lot of damage to trees, such as the wilting of leaves and cytosol absorption. Moreover, this type of fly excretes a substance called honeydew. This substance stimulates the growth of mold fungi on trees and hampers the process of photosynthesis. This type of fly transmits a significant number of diseases, especially viruses, and it is largely present in the regions surrounding the Mediterranean. Tsetse flies. They are largely found in the African continent. Their bite causes sleeping sickness. Fruit flies. These species of flies are smaller than domestic flies. The female can lay around 600 eggs during its lifetime. This fly causes a lot of harm to fruit trees. Fireflies. This type of fly includes around 2,000 species. It lives in temperate and tropical regions, and it differs from other types of flies in that it glows in the dark and keeps itself warm by living in small tunnels. The body of this type of fly exudes light as a result of chemical reactions that happen in the lower abdomen. The color of the light ranges from green to red to yellow. In the 16th century, French surgeon Ambroise Paré discovered one of the wonders of flies when he noted that the wounds of soldiers that were more exposed to flies healed faster than other wounds. Since then, fly larvae were used to treat wounds and difficult abrasions. In fact, larvae feed on the dead cells in the wounds, and their excrements with the chemical substance they include help with the healing. Entomologists created the first fly larvae farm in the United Kingdom in 1995 to produce sterilized larvae and sell them to specialists and health centers. Doctors at a hospital in Germany also announced that using fly larvae proved to be efficient in treating wound ulcers and chronic bone inflammations. It is recommended to get rid of flies if they are found in houses through different measures, such as avoiding to leave any exposed food in the kitchen, continuously disposing of the garbage, and getting rid of all the stains that may attract flies, like juice stains. When airing out the house, the sieve screen should be kept close to prevent flies from entering. The flies can also be expelled out of the house by placing a bowl containing vinegar, sugar, and some liquid detergent. The vinegar and sugar would attract the flies, and the chemicals in the detergent would kill them. We can find in dictionaries a gentle analysis of that insect that teaches us patience if we want to learn about it. We're referring to flies. Their name says it all, because when a person pushes a fly away, it comes right back. The flies do not realize that they are not wanted, and they were pushed away just a few seconds earlier in an attempt to get rid of them. The Almighty Creator talked about flies in His holy book, and set them as an example when He compared their weaknesses to that of human beings who were annoyed by them and constantly try to get rid of them without ever being able to fully do so. Despite all forms of defenses known to man against this insect, starting with primitive tools and all the way up to pesticides. Thus, we reviewed some of the miracles of Allah's creation of flies, with their harms and benefits, starting with the fact that they bother human beings and transmit diseases, and all the way to the miraculous use of larvae to heal difficult wounds. Mosquitoes were mentioned once in the Holy Quran in the Surat al-Baqarah. It is one of the verses which mention creatures reminding us of the glory of Allah, from the smallest to the biggest of them. God Almighty has put in them all His words and wisdom that create wonder in human minds. God does not hesitate to use mosquitoes as an example to show us the glory of His creatures. And this is what we will try to show in this episode, to see the wonders of God Almighty's creation. God Almighty says,
إن الله لا يستحي أن يضرب مثلا ما بعوضة فما فوقها فأما الذين آمنوا فيعلمون أنه الحق من ربهم وأما الذين كفروا فيقولون ماذا أراد الله بهذا مثلا يضل به كثيرا ويهدي به كثيرا وما يضل به إلا الفاسقين.
Mosquitoes fall within the category of winged insects, which include 3,000 species of mosquitoes. Mosquitoes transmit multiple dangerous diseases to human beings. The Anopheles mosquito transmits malaria to human beings in many regions of the world, especially in Africa. The Culex mosquito also transmits many diseases to human beings, such as filariasis, or what is known as elephantiasis, given that it causes swelling of the hands and feet, in addition to West Nile fever and encephalitis. Mosquitoes have a special relationship with bigger and smaller creatures, which has allowed them to settle into the land for more than 150 million years. Mosquitoes can suck up to 3 times their weight in blood. Mosquitoes have 2 compound eyes consisting of a large number of lenses, which look a lot like a beehive, and they are very sensitive to movement and can see at a 10-meter distance. They also have odor sensors and are especially sensitive to the smell of carbon dioxide let out by human beings from their lungs when breathing. Mosquitoes have a system of heat sensors that goes up to the level of modern devices. The system's sensitivity to temperature is 1 in 1,000. Mosquitoes have a blood analysis system. In fact, not every type of blood is convenient to them. 2 babies could be sleeping in one bed, and in the morning, we find that the forehead of one of them is full of mosquito bites, whereas the other one has no trace of mosquito bites. Mosquitoes also have a numbing tool. They numb the site of the sting so that the person does not feel the mosquito and will not kill it while it is sucking blood. Once the numbing effect wears off, the person begins to feel the pain of the bite. Mosquitoes have a tool to dilute the human blood that they suck to facilitate its passage through their delicate proboscis, and to prevent the blood from clotting in the sucking area when the body produces coagulation enzymes. Mosquitoes have a proboscis with 6 needles, 4 of which make a square-shaped wound in the skin to reach a blood vessel, and the 5th and 6th needles meet to create a tube to suck the blood. When one watches the complex and perfect design of mosquitoes closely, one realizes how glorious it is that God mentioned the mosquito in His holy book. One also realizes the reason He chose the mosquito in particular to respond to the slander of the unfaithful, and feels above all the greatness of the Creator which is reflected in this creature. The life cycle of mosquitoes includes 4 phases: the egg, the larva, the pupa, and the whole insect. The female, which carries the egg, sucks blood to feed the eggs. In the summer and fall months, the female lays the egg on wet leaves or next to dry lakes. The female mosquito looks for a place to lay its eggs with the sensors under its abdomen. When it finds this place, it lays its eggs, whose length does not exceed 1 millimeter, one after the other or as a group. The eggs are placed in a single row. Other types of female mosquitoes link the eggs to each other and lay them. The number of eggs they lay amounts to 300 eggs. The mosquito lays its eggs, which are generally white, and an hour or 2 later, their color changes to black to prevent insects from noticing them. Or in other words, to prevent them from eating them. This is enough to protect them. Some eggs also change color according to the surrounding environment. Mosquitoes are cold-blooded creatures that prefer temperatures that exceed 26 degrees. They can also be found during the winter in temperatures below 10 degrees. We noticed that the life expectancy of a female mosquito ranges from 2 to 4 weeks. As for the male mosquito, the life expectancy ranges from 1 to 2 weeks, given that its lifespan is shorter. Under ideal circumstances, female mosquitoes lay eggs every 3 days, and they can live in a hibernation state for periods amounting to 6 months. The role of mosquitoes in transmitting the malaria parasite came to be known a little before the beginning of the 20th century. Charles Alphonse Laveran was able to identify the parasite responsible for malaria in the year 1880. In the year 1897, Sir Ronald Ross discovered that the parasite can be transmitted by mosquitoes. In 1898, an Italian team of researchers were able to confirm the role of mosquitoes in transmitting the disease. It shows us that mosquitoes' role in transmitting parasites was completely unknown. They also noticed the fact that the word malaria originally comes from the Italian language, and it means bad air. The term was chosen for this disease as a result of the mistaken belief that the disease is transmitted to human beings via bad air, before mosquitoes were shown to transmit the microscopic parasites that cause it. Many people believe that mosquitoes are regular insects and insignificant creatures. Nevertheless, they are one of God's creatures that should be carefully observed and thought about. The spiritual leader, the Dalai Lama, said, "If you think you are too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito." This tiny creature is ready to exert all possible efforts to achieve its goals. It might spend the entire night to approach us or suck our blood. Mosquitoes teach us that whenever we are in a room, a forest, or anywhere else, we are powerless before this tiny insect, even when we use pesticides, because their effect wears off within 2 hours, and things go back to the way they were afterwards. God, with all His glory, has put wisdom in all His creatures.